Team Goodenough is one of about a dozen coaches around the world to hold the Advanced Professional Certified Meta Coach qualification. He is co-author of the bestseller In the Zone with South Africa's sports heroes. Team specializes in high performance, both in the corporate and sporting world, working with elite athletes and sports teams, both locally and internationally. Team, welcome into studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure. Thank
so
you
we're
so
talking
much.
about fear, and if I say I'm scared, is that fear?
It could be. So it's important to take a step back and understand what is fear. And before that, what are emotions? So from a neurosemantic point of view, which is the science behind the coaching that I do, emotions are the difference between what you expect and what you get. So if we have to consider a line of expectation in our heads, if it's better than that, it's good, it's positive, it's a smile. If it's really better than that, if you win the lottery, it's unbelievable, it's joy, it's jubilation. On this side, if it's a bit negative, it's disappointment, it's frustration. But if you go too far from your expectation, if your experience is too far, as we creep that way, we might find fear. And the thing about fear, it kicks into drive the body's survival mechanism. So all sorts of chemicals go throughout the body, cortisol, adrenaline, fight, flight, freeze gets triggered. And from that space, it's often quite tough to be quite a smart thinker. Where this comes from is if you went around the trees in the jungle 1,000 years ago and saw a saber-toothed tiger, you don't have time to get about a book and say, should I be scared? Should I worry about this? Should I fear for my life? It's an automatic kind of thing, and your body gets pumped and primed to survive. The challenge we're facing now is a lot of the fears we experience aren't about real threats, they're about perceived threats.
Exactly, which brings then to the whole issue of how do you handle perceived threat or perceived fear and real fear? How do you distinguish that? Because also what I'm getting is anxiety. If I'm anxious about something, could I mistakenly assume that it's anxiety and not fear?
Well, anxiety, there's different definitions out there. Often people call anxiety the fear that's imagined. And that's one of the ways that I like to think about it, where for me the question to first ask, am I actually in physical danger? Is this a survival thing? Sometimes in business it might feel that way. It might feel like we have to have this sale, we have to have this cash flow come into the company, or whatever the case is. And it's about understanding that when you have that experience, the thing is you probably won't be at your smartest. You probably won't be at your most resourceful, you probably won't be at your most effective, and it's to be able to take a moment to understand what's actually going on. And I'm going to share with a technique today about how to understand beyond the symptom, because fear is a symptom. So the equivalent of a child walks into your room and he's got a runny nose, if we just deal with symptoms, we give him a nose plug and send him on his way. But of course we don't do that as parents. We look and what's going on, do you have a temperature, we have some questions, and we find out what's actually going on. And I want to share a technique of how to actually find out what's going on, what's the full message that's triggering your survival mechanism.
So let's just bring this back to entrepreneurship and small business, because many entrepreneurs will tell you that fear can serve you to a degree. It's a part of your drive, it's part of what makes you better.
Yeah.
So could you just explain that in the context of what you just explained?
So not all fear is created equal. So it depends on what kind of personality you are, it depends on your style. So the question to always ask, is this working for me? Mm-hmm. If it's not, there's something to change. If it is, well then great. Well, thanks so much for the fear. It gives me the edge. It gives me the chance to be able to stay up late, get up early, or whatever's useful for you. Mm-hmm. And it's about having choice. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we didn't sit down as a child and say, these are the 15 things we really want to be scared about. These are the 20 things we really want to be fearful about. It almost happened accidentally. Mostly because we don't understand the mechanism. So now that we do understand how to get in there and understand it better, we can make better choices about which fear to keep and which fear to let go of.
So Tim, you alluded to a technique just now. So let's say I have a fear of public speaking, or a fear of going to see my bank manager for that matter. So just take us through something I can use now to deal with
Absolutely. So the first thing is to be able to get into the symptoms. So in terms of the fear manifests for different people in different ways. For me, I often feel in my stomach. Mm-hmm. Other people have tight breathing. Other people have a stiff jaw. Other people have a racing heart, sweaty palms, whatever the case is. So the technique is twofold. The first is to be able to focus on the symptom. And that's, for me, it's in the stomach for someone. So as you focus on your symptom, you ask the question, what's that about? And this is going to be a body answer, so it's going to be a slow answer. So the metaphor I've got in my mind is, as you ask the question, the answer's got to trace all the way through the arm, and eventually I have an idea about what this is about. So that's the way into the message. if you try to rush it, if you try to force it, you won't get good information. So once you've got the symptom of the message, you need to find out what's the full message. There might be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or more layers. I don't know. Depends on how hectic it is for you. Depends on how intense and what's going on. And the way to find the rest of the message is to use a technique called the metastates model, which is about understanding how thoughts are related to other thoughts, how beliefs are related to other beliefs. And the way to do it, once you've got the what's this about answer, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? And each time you answer the what does it mean to me question, you find the full layer of what's driving the fear. You find the full message. My style is to write it down like a skyscraper from the bottom up. And once I've run out of answers, I know that's what's driving this experience, whether it's fear or any other negative emotion.
So even you as a meta coach now still experience fear?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a human condition. In fact, I was feeling a bit of fear this morning as I was thinking about coming to studio and being on TV.
Yeah, I'm always afraid when I come to studio with Candy. I know how you feel. Okay, what's that about?
Exactly right. So it's a way to be able to go in, which means we don't have to be limited by our fears. It's a natural response. It's not always useful, but it's always real if you're experiencing it. So now we've got a way to go in. It's a way to be able to have more choice. And once you see what your actual message is, often that's enough to let it go. So I thought I'd demonstrate with you because I didn't let go of the fear before I came. And so if I could reconnect with what was going on in my tummy area today, so what's that about? So the message I'm getting in my head is, I don't want to misspeak. Because I've had the experience before of being on radio or TV and I said one thing slightly wrong and now all of a sudden, how can you say that? You misrepresented something. So that's the intro lesson, the intro message. So what does that mean to me? It means you've got to take this opportunity to be able to represent yourself accurately and to be able to share exactly what's going on and not misrepresent or disrespect anyone. What does that mean to me? It means that I've got to choose my words with care because this is such an important subject that if I can be accurate, I can make a big difference for anyone who may be listening and apply themselves. What does that mean to me? Don't mess up.
Wow.
Don't mess up. Don't do it wrong. Don't say the wrong thing. And as I say that, that's where I feel it really resonating with me. So now that I know that's the structure, if I just logically say to myself, listen, you're a human being, try your best. Be yourself. And as I say that, I can feel my voice starting to slow down. And I feel myself relaxing more into the conversation.
So let's talk about being prepared for a situation. So using that bank manager example before, where I'm afraid to go and see him or her, can I prepare myself beforehand so that I don't experience fear or as much fear in the situation?
Absolutely. So you would know that you're fearing it by some sort of symptomology. So if you know the bank manager is a problem, where do you experience the problem? Is it like a thought in your head? Is it a tension in your jaw? Is it a tightness in your body? So what you've got to do is when you experience that is to check in what's actually going on here. So if I had to use a makeup example, if I felt the tension across my chest was about the bank manager and I sat down and I asked the question, what's that about? I get the answer, I'm worried he's going to say no to me. So what does it mean to me? It means if I don't get what I want, my business is in jeopardy. What does it mean to me? It means my family's livelihood is on the line. What does it mean to me is I'm a failure as a father and as a business person. What does it mean to me is that whatever I do, I'm stuffed. So if I had all of that going on, I definitely would feel that kind of tension if I was going to see someone in that condition. But will it help me? Will it serve me? And if it doesn't, I can look at it and say, hey, hang on, no, I don't want to think that way. I'm going to choose to let that go. Because that's not the style that will serve my interests or my values or my vision. And if you can do that, sometimes enough to do it verbally. If you don't, if you can't, if it's so strong, I use the metaphor of dropping off shopping bags. So drop it like it's hot. You know when you're carrying heavy bags and your hands are like pork sausages and you're like really straining to let it go. And as you release that, can you release that idea that you're going to let down your family? Can you release the idea that he's going to say no? Can you release the idea that you're not successful as a business person or whatever's in the way for you? And you either feel the release, it's gone, or you feel some sort of objection, like it doesn't work that way, it won't work. And all you got to do is review the objection in the same technique. So what's going on there? What's that about? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? And let go of that. So the rules of this is that if you get in, you'll find the structure. If you change the top rule, the whole structure collapses, and it gives you a bit of freedom to be more of who you are, to not be limited by old thinking and unuseful thinking.
And we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. All right, now for our MTN Business Quick Tip of the Week.
I think there is a huge merit in being optimistic and positive and sometimes lying to ourselves about how things are going to turn out. There's a real positive effect of that. However, when it comes to being honest to yourself, I think in business it comes down to being better at measuring data. The more ways you have to measure your business and actually measure this data, that's where you get to be honest to yourself of where you really are at.
If you have friends or family who are working or living overseas, they can watch the program on their computers. Tell them to go to www.summit.co.za, click on the Big Small Business Show on the left of the screen, and they'll see a button to view this program again or look at previous episodes. Also on the site, you'll find the entry form to apply for Race Corps bursary to the value of 250,000 Rand. So Alon, your thoughts on today's show?
Candy, for me, the strong theme that came out today was this relationship with failure. And we saw in the interview with Fats his relationship with failure. We spoke to Tim about fear. So some people and many entrepreneurs fear failure, and that's really the wrong approach to failure. Fats particularly accepted failure as part of the journey and saw it as a teacher for what he could do better the next time. The other important thing when we're talking about failure is the concept of shame in failure. And South Africa is a shame-based society. We're always going here, oh shame, man, oh shame. There's too much shame around the concept of failure. And if there's one thing I would love to do in my lifetime is change our approach and our thinking towards failure in this country. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're afraid to fail, you know, just use Tim's technique in order to have a different feeling towards failure.
I'm not going to be scared. Thanks. Well, you're very welcome to send us a mail to bigsmall@summit.co.za if you'd like to appear on the show or give us feedback or recommendations. Till next week, goodbye.
Goodbye from me too, and remember, if you think it, write it down, and perhaps you got it wrong, write it down again, don't worry about it, and make it reality.
The Big Small Business Show was proudly brought to you by MTN Business. Your success is our passion. And the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. Develop, influence, lead.